If I could call it one thing, I'd say professional. It just feels extremely professional. I'm Seth, drummer from Captain Ivory, and you're watching Detroit Drum Dreams. I often tell people when they ask me what we are, what we play, who we are, I say we're hard rock blues. 60% hard rock, 40% blues. That's how I interpret it. That's what I've observed over the almost past year of playing shows with these guys. That's the vibe I get. When you just strip it all down, at the end of the day, that's the vibe I get. This is hard rock blues with just a pinch more hard rock than blues. When I first joined, they said, we have some material, you can probably find us on YouTube. And when I heard them, I thought, this isn't your average, hey, check out my mixtape or check out our debut album. This isn't an average case of that, you know what I mean? This is something a little bit more. So right away, when I heard it, I was like, all right, I really need to dive a little bit deeper into this, check these guys out, hang out with them, and see what they're all about. Joined last May, we'd only practiced, I want to say for maybe like a month or so, and there was already talk of, you guys want to take this on the road, we should take this on the road and do like a 2 or 3 week run and just play a bunch of shows. And when it comes to music, I don't mess around. I'm just like, you know what, if you want to do it, let's do it, I'm down for anything. I feel like we're a band that's established. We're tight individually as players. We're tight as a whole, as a group. And everything just feels so, I can't quite put my finger on on the word that I'm trying to find, but it just feels so natural, so tight, so polished, and just professional. That's what I would say, that's how I feel when we play shows every night. Great quote one time. This isn't word for word, but it was along the lines of, it's fascinating how many people will pay $8 for a latte, but refuse to pay $8 for a CD. And that, I agree with wholeheartedly. I think that speaks volumes. But yeah, again, I think it just comes down to taking what you do seriously, being professional, going out, playing shows, being heard, being seen, and just hoping that, one day it'll go to the next level, which if you're passionate about it and you're serious enough about it, it should, and it most likely will. It's growing. I can pretty much check our Facebook page any day of the week and we'll have at least 1 new like or 2 new likes every day. It's just about getting the word out there, spreading the word around, and having people who know about you invite their friends who don't know about you. So it just basically turns into a snowball effect. One person tells one person, next thing you know, you're hopefully, playing a stadium, or a concert hall or something like that. I'm constantly keeping in touch with all my friends and family from back home, and I give them updates whenever I can, as far as new stuff that's happening with the band. I already know from what I've heard it's going to be a packed show. It should be a packed show. It sounds like there's a lot of people coming, and I'm not only looking forward to playing for them, but I'm also looking forward to, when we get done, being able to just relax and just make my rounds and just talk to everybody and see everybody again. So I'm really looking forward to that a lot.
The desperation couldn't even buy his gin. His cash was waiting. All those lies had let him dry before. Bring his disappear, walk into frustration. Wallet had an empty pen, led him to temptation. All those nights had I let him drive before. He was once in need, but Lord, he swears the same. He knows that he's got dues, that he always plays to win and always won to lose. Be lost when you lost it all and had nobody to call. He's out of time. If only the cost of silent slide within a broken tie, that phone would ring one last time.
Drums kind of run in the family, but I think I can say with confidence that I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't be playing drums if it wasn't for my brother Aaron and my dad, Pete. His real name's Paul, but he goes by Pete.
Okay.
Sorry if I embarrassed him. But he would tell me stories. You know how when people start a family and they have kids, when the kids are really young, they'll walk them, like if the kid wakes up in the middle of the night, the mom or the dad will walk them around and just kind of pat on their back and just to calm them down, bounce them around a little bit. My dad used to very gently play beats on my back, drum beats. And there's been talk that a lot of people think that might have been where it kind of started. Because in all seriousness, it was kind of a natural thing for me. I kind of picked up drums naturally. And I'm a firm believer that was that's where it started, those were the roots, and then everything kind of built from there. So I'd say it started with my dad, and then my brother Aaron also played drums. When I was growing up, I was able to watch him play drums, and it always made me excited to play drums as well. We had our kits in our rooms on the opposite end of the hallway, and people used to ask our parents, don't you get sick of them playing drums at the same time? And they'd always say it's better than fighting. It's better hearing 2 drummers play at once than hearing fighting and bickering back and forth between brothers. So, and also when I was little, I was a huge Beatles fan. I still am, but my #1 band when I was in elementary school was the Beatles. And another story is when I was a little kid in the high chair, eating baby formula or whatever, I refused to eat unless my dad played Maxwell's Silver Hammer by the Beatles. I just wouldn't eat until he put it on, and then I would get all happy. So Ringo was a big influence. Middle school hit, I discovered Keith Moon from The Who. Very much enjoy his playing. Alex Van Halen, who I personally feel is kind of an underrated drummer, but he was one of my top 3 back in middle school. And then my 8th grade year, I got introduced to not personally, but I mean, someone showed me a song. It was either Free Will or Limelight by Rush.
Oh boy.
And before then, I'd never heard of them. I didn't know who any of them were. My friend was like, "Yeah, you should check them out. They're pretty good, and the drummer's really killer." And it was one of those things where I was like, "Yeah, this is good, but I just don't know if I can like wrap my head around this." And like, the singing is kind of strange, you know what I mean? But my attitude towards that quickly changed. The more I listened to it, I was like, all right, you know, these guys are phenomenal. And still, I was 13 when I first heard Rush. I'm gonna be 23 soon, and still to this day, they are my number one absolute most favorite band.
Wow.
I've seen them 5 times, and every time I've seen them, they've blown me away. All 3 of them. Neil Peart's my number one favorite drummer. But Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, even though they're not drummers, they're just such an inspiration as musicians, because they just, like I mentioned before, I don't like to fool around when it comes to music. They don't either. Those guys mean business, you know what I mean? And it shows in their playing, and that's a huge inspiration for me. Their level of professionalism and just not screwing around is something that I strive for as well as a musician. You hear all these stories about these bands that, you know, they're up till 4 in the morning and they're partying and stuff like that. And there's a documentary a few years back about Rush. They talked about when they opened up for Kiss. No cutting on Kiss, by the way, but they would talk about how, you know, Gene Simmons would be up till late hours, wee hours of the morning, and all the guys from Rush would be in their hotel rooms just watching TV, hanging out while everyone else is partying and drinking and stuff. That's cool to me personally. That to me is the epitome of a rock star. You take your stuff seriously enough to not let other stupid little side things get in the way, you know what I mean? You take your musicianship and your craft that seriously, that, you know what I mean? You're just content with not doing what everyone else is doing, and I think that's the coolest thing ever. I always say you should take your music seriously, not yourself seriously. You know what I mean? When it comes down to writing a song or picking out a drum part or a bass part or whatever instrument you play, you should definitely not waste time fooling around. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, have fun, you know what I mean? Don't let it get in the way, don't let it bother you, become a burden. So that's some advice I would throw out to any young person who might be watching. So there's that. So Neil Peart's my number one drummer. Simon Phillips is my second favorite drummer.
Awesome.
Close, very close second. And then Carter Beauford from Dave Matthews is my number 3.
Oh wow. 2 open-handed drummers in there.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. Very similar setups too, besides the one kick drum for Carter.
Right.
Yeah.
Never know the time. Never know the time. About too late alone. Never know the time. Once it's figured out, I'm not far away. So goddamn far away.
I'd say you'd probably have a better chance in a big music town, just because since there are so many musicians, that just leaves so many more doors open for finding someone who you can relate to and have the same taste in music with, as opposed to living in a small neighborhood with only, whatever, let's say 5 kids live on the same street you do, and you live on a street that's far away from a small town. You better hope that the other 5 kids in your block play an instrument and have the same taste as you, which is not always the case. but I'd say you definitely have more of a window as far as finding what you want musically by moving to a bigger city. And one thing I can say about Nashville is, even though I'm not a Southern guy, I'm not a big country fan, it's a great place to live. It's friendly, it's clean, it's not really dangerous, you know what I mean? Like there's never a time where you'll be walking around always just like, looking around like, oh, I shouldn't go there. It's not like that, you know what I mean? It's just very relaxed. You can pretty much just go anywhere without being afraid of anything.
There's a quote by Rich Redmond. He said it takes 5 years to get connected and established in Nashville, to get, known in the scene and all that. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that, and how do you think you're gonna, get to that point?
Right. I'd say it depends. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I'll go ahead and say, like, for the record, I got extremely lucky. I was extremely fortunate that I ran into the guys in Captain Ivory when I did. I had only been down there a few months, 3 months, 4 months maybe. And I had heard that too going down, that it was called like the 5-year city, or some people call it the 10-year city. So I already went down thinking like, it's going to be an uphill battle, but what am I going to do? Turn around and not do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not why I came down here. So since I ran into those guys, and I'm in the band now, and we're moving around a lot, touring, making records, I haven't really gotten out a lot back in Nashville to really meet any other players that often, or network. But I think it all just depends. Because like I said, there are some people that'll move down there and spend 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, not only trying to meet new people, but finding their pocket, you know what I mean? Finding something as close to what they wanted to do when they got down there that they could find. And again, like I said, I got extremely lucky. The definition of lucky is me, or what I stumbled upon, because that was just,
That's awesome.
the stars couldn't have been more aligned that day when we met. Everything just connected so quick. And like I said, I had been there, a quarter of a year, and just like that, it was like in a band, playing shows, on the road, talking about an album, recording the album, back on the road in less than a year.
That's awesome.
So, but if I could give any advice, it would just be, and I'm sure 1,000 people have said this before, but just go out, play, talk to people, and always go with your gut too, because that night that I met him, it was just a gut feeling, like, oh, I should go, to the local jam night and just see what's going on, and it just happened. So I'd say always go with your gut would be, if I could give any piece of advice, that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm T.Greens,
And I'm Seth.
and you're watching
Detroit.
Drum
Dreams.
Yeah.
DW Drums, only the best. Remo Drumheads, Vic Firth Drumsticks, and Peisty. I hope I'm saying that right. I hear a lot of people say it differently, but Peisty cymbals. Big shout out to all those companies. Great stuff.